Why do you feel like we dog someone that stays in a relation, like stays with her man after they cheat?
You know, we probably have one of our friends who still go back with that same ex we don't like, and it's so frustrating because it's kind of like you see all the red flags from coming from your stance as like a neutral and objective person witnessing it. It seems like the most rational and logical to not go back to someone who's obviously not the right one. But when it's someone who's already in that position, it's someone with those feelings, they kind of have like these rose-colored, frozen. Mm-hmm. They have these rose-colored glasses on. I think that's what like my best friend likes to call it, where it's kind of like their emotions cloud their judgment. So I don't think they can see. So it's frustrating for us it's frustrating for what we can see why that other, like that ex or that cheating ex is so wrong for them, but they can't see it. So I think that's where the dogging comes from. It's from the frustration of like, girl, like obviously he cheated on. Why would you want to go back to somebody that cheated on you? But it's like when we're that person that is going back to them, their judgment is basically clouded by their emotions, and I think that's the most frustrating part.
Why do you feel like, okay, so technically I was gonna ask you, like, why do you feel that girls stay in relationships when a guy cheats on them, not even once but multiple times, and you're pretty much saying you feel like it's the emotional thing that clouds their judgment? Do you feel like that's the only reason, or do you feel like there's other factors?
It's the settling too.
Yeah,
I feel like they end up settling. I feel like they don't want to let go of, and it's also like they probably hold on to this idea of what that person may be. I feel like, honestly, I'm gonna be real, I honestly think, because we was talking about this recently, how toxic relationships have been normalized and kind of like they've become popular. I sometimes think women that do go back to their cheating husband, I think they have this fantasy of like, because you know in the movies the guy fucks up but then he comes back, he got the boombox over his head and he's begging her to come back. I feel like some women they kind of want that. They're kind of hoping for that, like it was like an honest mistake, and hoping that he's doing everything that he can to get them back, because they kind of like that sort of attention. I'm not saying all women, but some women, they might like that. They kind of might like that fantasy of like, he admitted his wrong and he's doing all these things to make it up to me because he finally realized I'm the one. I think they're probably sticking on to, I think they stay because they're sticking to this fantasy of the person who they thought they were. They stick to this idea of someone, of who they thought that person was, and not really seeing it for what it was, because their judgment is clouded.
I do agree with the fantasy stuff, because I feel like that whole, because when we talk about like normalizing toxic relationships, I don't even think it's to now. I feel like the media's been doing it for so long, because I feel like every fucking movie, TV shows, even to the freaking novellas I used to watch with my parents, like, I feel like the idea of, there's this couple, the guy fucks up and sleeps with the other girl, but then he comes back and fights for his love, and then he changes, and then they end up like, everything's okay. I feel like this happens repeatedly in TV shows and movies. So I feel like because us watching it, we think like you said, it was an honest mistake. But I think another reason why people do stay is because I think they're scared to leave. I think it is the settling thing. I think it is because people always say like, who's stronger, the person that stays in the relationship with the guy that cheats, or the person that leaves? And I personally feel like the person that's strong is the one that leaves, because it is a very tough decision when you are in a relationship with someone for so long. You shared so much with this person, you've been vulnerable with this person, and even to the point, let's say if you guys are married, have kids, it is a very tough decision to say, I'm gonna leave this person and go out, and even the risk of like, will I ever find somebody else? And I feel like at times when people do settle, it's because of that fear of like, am I gonna find anybody else? If I leave this person, am I gonna just end up alone? Like, I think it's a fear thing.
I feel like they end up feeling trapped too, like, especially if they're married or they have kids. It's always like, oh, I've seen like in like the reality TV show and movie, they'd be like the women feel obligated to make it work because they're married and all the years that they spent together and all the kids. But it's like, he obviously didn't take those things into consideration, so you shouldn't feel obligated to make anything work.
Yeah.
So what if the kids? He wasn't thinking about your kids or your marriage when he went to go cheat. So you're not obligated to think about those things and think about, you know, you're not obligated to feel that way either. Especially when you slipped up.
My thing when it comes to that is like, do you feel that when a woman decides to stay, when a person cheats or whatever, and they say, oh, like, we've been married for 10 years, or we have kids, do you feel like those are just excuses because they just want to stay?
I mean,
because I feel like think about it. Every time, like, when someone stays in a relationship, when a person cheats on them, I feel like how do I say it? Because, you know, obviously they have to go back to the mom, or they have to go back to the sister or the brother or their friends and be like, okay, I'm back with him. And it's like, it's almost in a sense of like them trying to validate their decision. Because I've never in a situation have ever seen someone get cheated on and then they stay and they be like, listen, I want to stay with him. And that's that. I feel like it's always like they come with the whole list of excuses of like, and that's what, to me, it makes me feel like that whole, like, there's kids, there's this, there's that. It's like, those are, I think those, honestly, those are just probably excuses. I think the person just wants to stay.
It depends. Maybe the first time I could believe, like, okay, yeah, sure, maybe, whatever. But after after a couple more times, then that's when, to me, it starts to seem like, yeah, that's,
you just want to stay.
You probably just want to stay. I think in those instances, yeah, if it's more, especially if it's more than once, and they have a history, and they're still using that same, like, oh, but what about the kids? It's the marriage. Like, I gotta make it. That's when I feel like, all right, yeah, you're trying to find things to hold you down. You're trying to basically find things that makes it seem like it's holding you back, but it's not, because you can still walk away if you wanted to.
I guess because even just going back to the whole little boozy stuff, I feel like the only issue that I had with him is like, I don't like the fact that he said that women that stay with a guy that fucks up are like real women. Like, he used the word real women, and like, I guess the person that's dating around isn't a real woman. I didn't like that comment. Because here's my issue when it comes to this. I feel like, me personally, the way I feel about the situation is like I feel like if Little Boozy would have worded in the sense of like, listen, guys, if y'all gonna praise a woman that's dating and sleeping around, then we should also praise the woman that's gonna stay in her relationship. Because at the end of the day, regardless of an independent woman making a decision for herself, anyone should have respect for it. It's none of our business. Like, if that's what she wants, that's what she wants. We shouldn't judge. But I feel like the only problem that I have when it comes to like, or when it comes to guys' perspective on like the real woman that stays with the guy that cheats, is like, y'all know damn fucking well that if she was to do the same thing to you, you're not gonna stay. And I feel like that's always been my issue when it comes to the whole like girl sticking it out with the guy, but the guy don't stick it out with the girl. Guys are constantly trying to like say that, oh, she's a real woman if she stays, she's a real woman. So what? When she does the same thing and you leave, you're not gonna be a real man? And I feel like that's always my issue.
The fact that they even brought up that question in that interview. Why did they feel the need to ask why did they feel the need out of all things to talk about, they're gonna talk about Lori and her relationship, what she's doing in her relationship, and bring it to Boozy? Mm-hmm. I feel like, and that's how I feel like the media they be stirring shit up. There was no need to ask those type of questions. There was no need to even bring that up. What's the relevance of this to an interview with Boozy? What they gotta do? Why y'all want his input? But I guess to stir up the little hot topic that we have now.
I don't know. I just, because another thing is like him basically, because another thing I didn't like, the comment that he made was like, she's being passed around.
Who's passing her around? That's my question. Why is it only women get passed around, but y'all talking about she getting passed around? But why isn't it the other way around?
You see, and that's my problem with it. That's the thing. It's just like, I personally don't give a fuck, girl, guy, do whatever the fuck you guys want to do with your private parts. I just don't like the fact that it's just like, let's keep the same energy for both parties.